Where does China fit in all of this with Egypt? Egypt's a member of BRICS. I think it's a member of NDB, the New Development Bank as well. Where does China fit in within the Egyptian economy?
Well, the issue of China is a regional issue, very much as China's been taking a very long view everywhere. It's not like the Western powers or investors take very much a short-term view. It's building up and building up, as you know, before I move on to what it means for Egypt. Particularly, China's been electrifying and ring-fencing its whole economy for some years, and that electrification is enormous. They put in a day what some countries would do in a year in terms of solar panels. So I think there's much to learn from their approach. China, it's quite interesting in the discussions, before I again move to Egypt, Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, basically saying to America, if we're going to export oil, we may do so in the yuan rather than the dollar. That would threaten dollar strength. So is perhaps an indirect threat to stop kinetic action in Iran and come to an agreement. Egypt's further behind that in terms of the importance. First of all, the sheer size of the economies in Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, Qatar, are much higher. However, Egypt's an important economy and important geopolitically. And you see that in the relationship that's been built between President Sisi, who's made a number of visits to Beijing to meet President Xi. And I think what Egypt's been trying to do, and you see it also with visits to Putin in Sochi and Moscow, is that President Sisi and the team around him have been trying to balance the geopolitical relationships to make sure they're not really, are they playing one against the other? I wouldn't really say that. I'd say that for them, they're balancing their interests. And that means China will remain a key player in Egypt. It's not been an enormous investor, unlike India. India's invested significantly into the chemical sector. Very good, very quiet, long-term investors. China's been building up increasingly along the Suez Canal Zone and has won some different government supports, being able to employ more numbers of Chinese than other companies, including Western companies' investments, for example. So that's appealing to China because Egypt still remains a big domestic market for its goods. And I think that Egypt will remain a key player for them to grow investment directly in manufacturing longer term.